I'm wondering whether we should start ahead of time. Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kishore Mahbubani. I'm the Dean of the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore. And I'm sure the first question in your mind is, why is this man from Singapore chairing a forum on the future of American power? I think Davos wants to prove that occasionally he makes mistakes. Anyway, it's a great pleasure to welcome you because we are addressing an extremely important topic today. What I propose to do is just let you know quickly that I'm just a traffic cop. I will make a few brief introductory comments, and then I'll pose maybe 1 or 2 rounds of questions to this very distinguished panel that I'll introduce in a minute. And then we'll throw the floor open for questions from the floor. And I hope you were all ready for some good, hard, tough questions, because the tougher the question, the better the discussion. And I'm sure the panel will be very happy to have the tough questions. So let me begin in a kind of a stage setting kind of way, make 3 broad points. The first point, of course, the obvious point is that in some ways the question of the future of American power in the 21st century is probably the most important question of the day. Because if you look at how the 20th century evolved, much of it was driven by American power. The whole history of the 20th century was driven by American power. And of course there are debates, was it good, was it bad? But in many parts of the world, it was viewed as very benign. In fact, just yesterday, right on this stage, if I'm not mistaken, Fareed Zakaria was interviewing the Prime Minister of Singapore 24 hours ago. And the Prime Minister of Singapore said, as a matter of fact, that the American power in the Asia-Pacific has been extremely benign, and frankly, it could even serve as a model for China at some point in time. And so that's the first reason why this panel is so important. The second point, of course, is that while American power, of course, still remains number 1 in the world, the big question is about the future. Is it going to keep on rising? Will it remain stagnant? Or, heaven forbid, will it even decline? And I know that decline is not a word that is used a lot within the American discourse, but as I told the panelists, it's unfortunately being used outside quite a bit. So it may be interesting to get the external and internal perspectives of where American power is heading. And the third point I want to make is that, and in that sense, we're really fortunate to have this distinguished panel here, is that, as you know, within America, the political system, let me try and put this very gently, has become quite polarized. And this polarization within the American political system is perceived by the rest of the world to have affected American power vis-a-vis the rest of the world. So to have 2 distinguished Republicans and 2 distinguished Democrats on this panel, I think gives it a tremendous amount of power in the discussions that we're going to have. So let me just briefly introduce them. On my immediate left is Senator Saxby Chambliss, a senator from Georgia. He holds a very important position as Vice Chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and also a member of the Armed Services Committee. So when we discuss, for example, the announcement made by Secretary Panetta today, that there will be $500 billion of cuts in American defense budgets, we can talk about the implications of that. We have then Senator Bob Corker, the senator from Tennessee. He's the ranking member of the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and if the Republicans win the Senate in November, you might become the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Next to him, we have Dr. Michael Froman, who's the Deputy Assistant to the U.S. President and Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economic Affairs, and also the G20 Sherpa. And last but not least is Congresswoman Nita M. Lowey. She's from the 18th District, state of New York. And she's in charge of foreign aid and through the role that she's played in the House Appropriations Committee. So we have a very wonderfully well-balanced panel. So let me start the discussion by asking the first question about how each and every one of you see the future of American power in the 21st century. Do you see it as, in a sense, constantly rising? Or do you see that are the concerns about it be declining real or misplaced? So Senator Chambliss, we'll start with you first.
Well, first of all, let me say that, you know, perceptions are just what they are. They're perceptions. When you look at the realities of what's going on in our world today, the world is a very changed place from where it was 5 years ago. Certainly it's a very changed place from where it was 10 years ago. The advent of the internet has made dramatic changes. We're now seeing the unfortunate military conflicts being brought into everybody's living room all across the world on a regular basis. There are just any number of things that have contributed, I think, probably to what I truly believe is a perception. Now, does the United States have issues that we have to deal with? You bet. We have very, very serious issues. Are we operating from a governing standpoint the way that I would like to see, or probably any of the four of us up here would like to see? I think the question is no. But that being said, I would say this. I think there are three areas where the United States has always provided not just the right kind of image, but from a practical standpoint, we have been the leader of the free world. First of all is with the economy. In spite of our problems now, we still have a very strong economy, and we have the world's largest economy. We've got to fix it. We got a real problem with our economy, and it needs fixing. And what we do is going to impact the economy of every other country in the world. And we've got to make sure that not only we do it right, but we do it soon. And we are not there today. Secondly, we have been the military power of the world for several decades, certainly going back to the conclusion of World War II. And we have not necessarily the largest army or the largest military, but from a technological standpoint, we are certainly the most advanced military, and that gives us a huge edge. And the numbers of individuals that wear the uniform in the United States today are different from what they were 10 years ago, just in numbers. But there's another difference that is of more importance to citizens of the United States, and that is that our military today does not operate on a draft system. Every young person coming into or coming out of school used to have to go into the military unless you had a physical reason why you couldn't. Today, our military is an all-volunteer military, which means that the men and women that wear the uniform of the United States of America are there because they're patriotic, they want to be there. They know today, and they know over the last decade, that when they raise their right hand and swear it up over the Constitution of the United States, they're getting ready to go into a military conflict. So the makeup of our military is very, very patriotic, very, very committed, and we're going to remain the world's strongest military power. We can't afford to be in second place. I know we'll talk more about these, the cuts and whatnot, but just know that that will be the case. And then thirdly, the United States from a leadership standpoint has always had individuals, whether it was the president or members of Congress or whatever, that have been in prime leadership roles, again, for decades. And right now, if you had to point to who is the leader on the Republican side, who is the leader on the Democratic side, obviously the president's a Democrat, and certainly that's where their leadership comes from. On the Republican side, it's probably a little bit of a mixed bag because we have control of the House and we have a speaker there. He's a logical, maybe the leader of the Republicans. We're in the minority on the Senate side. The minority leader is in a leadership role. Is he the guy that is leading the Republicans? Well, if you watch presidential debates, you know, you'll get a mixed bag of all of that too. But I think the fact is that America has not provided the right kind of leadership on world issues over the last several years, and I'm not just referring to this administration, but I think that we've got to step up our game there. We ought not to have a president who feels compelled for whatever reason to go around the world and apologize for acts of the United States. Was a little bit infuriating to a number of us. From the standpoint of where we're going to be, from an economic standpoint, we're going to rebound. From a military standpoint, we'll always be the world's strongest military. From a leadership standpoint, I'm confident that we'll continue to provide the world with the right kind of leaders that exhibit true leadership worldwide.
Well, I must say thank you for that very careful, nuanced presentation pointing out both the strengths and weaknesses and challenges. So I'm going to turn to the Democrat now. We agreed that we would alternate. So Congressman Lowy, would you like to give your perspective on how you see American power in the 21st century?
Certainly, and I thank the World Economic Forum for holding this session. I've been very pleased to serve on the State Department Foreign Operations Appropriations Committee. And when the Democrats are in charge, I was chair of the committee. Now Kay Granger is chair of the committee. And for those of you who haven't seen the article, The Odd Couple, it stressed the two Democrats that get along. And frankly, I was very pleased during the appropriations process that we were able to turn out a very strong bill. George Bush made it very clear that our national security depends on defense, diplomacy, and development. And I do believe that this bill that we produced does reflect our strong leadership in the world now and commits to our strong leadership in the future. And I am very pleased with the leadership of our president internationally. And if you've ever traveled with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, as I have, if I didn't want to undermine her seriousness, I would say that she is a rock star and has the respect of all with whom she meets. I don't think there's a place that she hasn't traveled, and I would dare say the same for Vice President Biden. Now, I'd like to add one other dimension to this. Number one, we have to keep strong, and even though there are proposed cuts, there is no question for those of us who have looked at the defense budget, my colleagues on the Senate side would say, and I'm not going to go back to the $600 toilet seat, it's too serious an issue, that there are places that can be cut carefully with discretion and maintain our strength. And certainly with regard to the foreign aid budget, we are providing very careful oversight because we know how important it is to spend our dollars wisely. I'd like to mention another area which I think is absolutely essential when you talk about American power in the world. Senator Chambliss talked about the economy. What we do with our infrastructure, what we do with our educational system, how we train our people for the future. We import many students from all over the world to our university system, and we're very proud of that. But I do think that we have to do a lot more within our elementary and high school systems to maintain our power and our status in the world. I was saying to our distinguished moderator, some of you may know Scarsdale, New York, we're doing Singapore math in Scarsdale, New York. And we had a discussion before this panel began about education in Singapore.